All right, let's go to surprising teams. Better news, good news. Let's talk about teams that just took you by surprise a little bit. There's going to be a lot on these lists. Let's go back to the Big 12 to start things off. I'm not going to Jake because he's going to have 5 on his list. JP, you go first.
Yeah, there's low-hanging fruit here. I really think there is. So I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit. I'll let Jacob go into a little more depth. Let's circle Arizona State. Like a
great
wins a conference. Like,
go from last to first. That's surprising.
There's low-hanging fruit, and I didn't want to make the Big 12 guy go do that. Yeah, like exactly that. Like Kenny Dillingham switched this thing around a lot faster than people expected. Sam Levitt was good. I thought he'd be good preseason. He was a lot better than what I thought. Defensively, they were a lot better than a lot of people thought in some spots. And, their ability to really fight through things and show some tenacity is not something Arizona State as a program has done in quite some time. And so that was really cool to see and just not only surprise people, but to really, capture the nation in some ways. And like people wanted to be a part of that, wanted to watch it, wanted to cheer along for Arizona State. So I'll put them down as surprising and an excellent 2024 with hopes of 2025 being just as good for them.
Great pick, chalk pick, but you got to put him in there. What a job by Kenny D. GA, I want to first and foremost apologize for the pick I'm about to give. Ignore the helmets behind me. This is an unbiased college football opinion. Jake, this is a shot at you. Colorado should surprise me. Right after week 2, I feel like they surprised the entire country. Everybody thought it's the same offensive line, the same issues, but the way they turned things around on the defensive side of the ball, the way they competed for that conference late in the season, like they were much more sound. They weren't as messy of a program as you would have thought they would have been after week 2 and what Nebraska did to them. But Colorado surprised me. I'll put it out there. They were a good team. Sam Shedeur was good. Travis Hunter obviously wins the Heisman Trophy. Like, it was a good team, and they had a better end record than I thought they'd be. I knew they'd have the statistics, but I didn't think they'd get to that 8-9 win mark. I don't think people realize this, but Colorado has not won a bowl game since 2004. So I was kind of,
that was that was the first bowl game they've been to since 20.
Yes, they had the second longest drought. They had the second longest drought to Nebraska.
Okay,
so
there you go.
They both those broke this
brothers
year.
in arms.
Colorado, stop. Colorado got dismantled. We won ours, and we beat the shit out of Colorado. So I'll take brothers in arms if you want to put that. That's little brother. That's big brother, little brother program. But Colorado's my surprising team in the Big 12. All right, Jake, who's left?
This is a good one. There's a lot left, but I'll do first shouts to BYU. BYU's their low-hanging fruit one there. Just was projected to be bottom 3 of the conference. But I'm going to go Baylor. I thought Dave Aranda was gone after Colorado, after that Hail Mary, and after the Iowa State dismantling at home. I thought there's no way he's keeping his job. And Sawyer Robertson became one of the best quarterbacks, and honestly, of college football. You could probably throw him in top 20, top 15 on your list. And the offense started clicking. And it's funny because Dave Aranda, he takes over play calling duties on defense. I don't really think the defense took much of a step forward. In fact, it might have been worse. But the offense just picked up the slack, and they won 8 games. And Dave's back again, and it feels like the collective and the money they're starting to hone in on some transfers and stuff. So it feels like it's going in the right direction. We'll wait and see, but they definitely surprised me in 2024.
Oh no!
Twice in one episode is unacceptable. Sorry, I'm all out of sorts. Let's move it down the line. Let's go to the next conference. Let's go back to the Big Ten. JP, you lead us off. Big Ten guy number 1. Who is your surprising team out of the Big Ten Conference?
Illinois. 100%. That team not only was 9-3 with like a pretty tough schedule, but was a good 9-3, right? In a game with Penn State, and in a game, Oregon game got away from them. But that team had a resume to talk and, be alongside anybody. So I think when you're looking at the Big Ten and what it was expected out of Illinois, it was not to be 9-3 with, in some ways, a better resume than the South Carolina, a better resume than Alabama, some really good wins. And honestly, a couple plays away from being 10-2 and a sure into the playoff. That's not Illinois that you're used to, but it feels like an Illinois that Brett Bielema is building, and they are projected in a lot of ways to be in the top 10, top 15 here coming into 2025. So I'll go Illinois.
All right. I like that pick. Obviously, I thought I just spoke to it that nobody expected them to be as good as they were. And now they built the hype, just like JP mentioned. But I'm going to take one that I don't think anybody else will have because they finished middle of the pack, but from where they were expected to preseason to what they turned out to be and the games that they won and competed in, Minnesota was very surprising for me. I thought Minnesota was much better than I thought they were going to be. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, you guys know ball as much as me. Don't take it though personally. But you play Penn State to the wire. You go on the road. You beat USC late in the game. You play Illinois to the wire. You play Michigan to the wire. You kind of got screwed out of the Michigan game. And then you beat Wisconsin. You beat Va Tech in the Mayo Bowl. Nobody really expected a lot from this team, especially when you lose the opening game to North Carolina where their quarterback goes down. You beat on a missed field goal. But then they really turned things around, and PJ Flex Group showed some resiliency. So I thought Minnesota was a pleasant surprise, and you have one of the better young defensive backs in the Big Ten now. So shout out Minnesota. Who do you got, Jake?
I know they didn't get to a bowl game, but we kind of hinted at it before. I think UCLA took some strides.
Absolutely.
Winning some big road games. Unfortunately, got the best of both of your teams in this conference. And I thought they're heading in the right direction for a first-year coach that people just when he took the podium at Big Ten Media Days on that first day, they're like, is UCLA going to win 2 games? I mean, their over-under, I think, was around that ballpark as well. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see and see. I don't know if they're making a big splash in recruiting. So I don't know if it's heading in a super positive direction, but it does feel like they competed a lot better in a conference where people thought they were going to get rolled over in.
100%. I'd put UCLA part of that. All right, let's go to a new conference. Let's go to the ACC. I'm sure this is going to vary pick to pick, especially when it comes to mine. You can probably guess who I'm going to talk about, so I'll lead it off. But I have Georgia Tech down. And it's not because their record ended up the way they wanted to, but nobody really expected Georgia Tech to go into Florida State and beat them in Ireland. But we didn't know who Florida State was in that game, obviously. So it was a shocking win there. They take Georgia to the wire at the end of the year. Probably should have won that game with a few calls go their way. And then they just lost in some spots that you were like, after we saw the good spot of them, maybe that was a bad loss for them. But Georgia Tech football, like, it's on the up and up, in my opinion. You get some 5-star recruits. Like, they shocked me in winning some of the games that they did, but they also shocked me and surprised me in losing some of the games they did the way they did.
They like to play top 25 teams. They play top 25 teams.
The ranked team killer, my boy Brent Key. And I'm always on them, and I always want to talk about Georgia Tech, but they took me for a pleasant surprise this year and even shocked me in some spots, like competing against Georgia on the road the way they did, and the guts Haynes King showed in that game. Was just a good thing for college football. And if Georgia Tech can get good, I don't see why they're not good being in where they are in Atlanta. It'll be cool for the sport for them to be relevant again. JP.
Yeah. For me here, I think this one is a mixed bag. I took Duke because Duke winning 9 games isn't normal. But then you look at when they played teams with a pulse outside of SMU, they got the doors blown off. And so, but it's Duke winning 9 games. They were
beating Miami by, what was that, 15, 20 points, and then they got beat by 20 points.
But for me, like in this Duke program, it's not a team you're going to consistently circle and say 8.5 is your over under win total. You're going to win 9, lose the bowl game. I think that would be taken by a Duke fan every single time. And so I'm going to call them surprising because you didn't have them down for 9. And even though they're the beneficiary of a really easy schedule for the ACC and they really didn't beat anybody great, I'm going to circle that and I'm going to say that's a good for Duke, especially after, just a mass departure out of that place when Elko left it. Like, it's tough. And, you know, to get a team to really buy in like that. And then they're like, hey, by the way, we'll spend the money this offseason too. I'm surprised with what Duke's trying to do football-wise.
All right, Jake, wrap up the ACC for us, surprising teams-wise.
There's a couple. Again, Reese, we're always thinking of you. Got to throw Syracuse out there. That could be a good honorable mention. But, I mean, we got to take the easy one, right? Oh, did I get...
Who booted himself? Did you boot yourself?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
I don't know what's going on there, but keep going. I don't think they stopped hearing you.
Out. No, you're good. SMU for me is my surprising team of 2024. It's an easy pick. I don't think conference championship or college football playoff was any of the list of expectations for that SMU fan base this year, but they just continue to play really good football, and they got themselves an opportunity. I think changing conferences in a landscape where you were traveling literally from California to South Carolina or Florida to win and get to the conference title was, it was a big surprise, I think, for everybody in this conference.
Definitely. All right. That's the ACC. Let's go on to the SEC to wrap up the Power Four surprising teams. I'll let JP go first. I know you're just getting back on the mic. Find your notes, find your team. Who's shocked you and who surprised you in the SEC this year?
Florida.
Fair.
And for a couple of reasons, right? That schedule, we talked about how daunting it was. We were like, a couple of us were like, there's no shot they win 6-7 games. Well, they do win 7 games. Not only do they win 7 games, they beat Ole Miss, and they look really good and really bought in until the end of the year. And I think that's the biggest reason I'm going to put surprising, because at one point in some of those games, you're like, man, this team just feels like they're ready to quit and just not
after the Miami
fan base is out. Yeah. Yep. And that was not the case. Like I think they really found something, and people bought back in, and Lagway was there. And, with Mertz getting hurt, and I like Graham Mertz and what he did at Florida, I think you couldn't have asked anything more of him from that fan base. But to see how bought in those players were and how well that team was playing late in the year, man, that's surprising to me that they found themselves in that situation after the first couple weeks of the season. So I'll circle Florida there. And, I actually really enjoyed watching them late in the year. I thought that team was a ton of fun to turn on and watch on Saturdays.
Definitely a fair team to put on there. I mean, you extend your coach when you're sitting in there with a 500 record, it's for good reason. So good pick there. I'll take South Carolina. I think Beamer Ball saw some struggles his first few years. Especially last year, they were a bad team at some points, man. And the way they turned things around, the way they played at home, and really the only team that stood in the way of South Carolina was South Carolina. They gave up some games that they really should have won. They were in the mix for playoff conversations. Granted, it was a bit of a stretch towards the end of the year, but things are looking up and up. Had the way Lenoris Sellers played, even when he went down, they got decent quarterback play from a not very good previous school quarterback, and it just seems good. Everything seems good, and they took me by surprise in the way they competed against teams that were said to be elite in the preseason. So I like what I saw from South Carolina, and they took me by surprise in 2024. What do you think, Jake?
Texas A&M. I know you end the season on a 3-game losing streak, but if you'd have told a Texas A&M fan in the beginning of August that your team is going to be competing for an SEC title in late November, you'd have taken it whatever shape and form it comes from. They still have, I think, a ton of progress to make offensively, but the wins came as good as they could have. And a lot of positives came from a Mike Elko coached football team that you watched from Jimbo Fisher for numerous years. So year one under Mike Elko it was a surprise to me, because I didn't really know what it was going to look like. If you'd have told me at the beginning of the year some of the offensive stats that Texas A&M put up, I'd have been like, did they get 6 or 7 wins? Are they all ugly? And they got 8, I believe, and they still had a chance to go to Atlanta when they hosted Texas. And the defense showed up again, but offense let them down.
Yeah, different quarterback play, but they also saw some bright flashes that could be a surprise from their young, talented freshman quarterback. So Texas A&M definitely a fair pick there. All right, JP, wrap up the SEC. Oh, wait, sorry. You already gave yours. I know. Yeah. I apologize. It was Florida. I know. I'm dialed in. I'm just checking out. We're over an hour and 6 minutes, though.
Vandy's honorable mention we have to give shouts.
Yeah, I put their coach on the front of the graphic. So if we don't talk about him, we might be beheaded. But Vanderbilt's got to be in the conversation, right? The upset wins throughout the entire season, the way Diego Pavia somehow obtained another year of college football. So he's going to be playing next year. So you got to expect more out of Vanderbilt going into 2025, which are things you would have never guessed going into the 2024 season. So huge season for Vanderbilt. Definitely a bright surprise. And I think that would be a unanimous pick across all college football fans, but good mention there because he is on the episode cover. Mm-hmm. All right. Open it up to finish tonight's show. G5, open floor. Let's talk surprising teams that you were like, damn, that team was pretty good. I'm going first so nobody takes mine. UNLV. Because I didn't know if they were going to be able to answer the bell after a good season 2 years ago. Like they were competitive. All of a sudden, now this is a school that can be in the mix. Why aren't they good? They're in Las Vegas. It's got to be a travel hotspot. The kids got to enjoy it. They got some money floating around that city if you didn't know. And then you have the quarterback battle. You start off the way you start off. You're competing late in the games with Power 4 teams. You should have beat Syracuse. All of a sudden, your quarterback says, I'm done. I'm going. I didn't get my money. I'm going elsewhere. Things could have gone south really fast, and they did not. Honestly, the backup quarterback could have been the starter the entire season, and they made it to the Mountain West title game, ran into a playoff-bound and competitive Boise State team that had the best player in the country on their team, and it just didn't work out. But that's a team that, if they can keep up the way they are, they can compete from the Mountain West. They should compete for the Mountain West year over year. But obviously, you got to replace the coach now. But this year, very surprising team, the way they performed, especially with the hindrances they had throughout the season. I'll take UNLV, Jake.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun going through the list on the G5 teams. I'll stay within the conference. And again, I know they didn't make a bowl game, but New Mexico is my surprising team. I mean, their over-under win total was 1.5. And God, they were a gut-wrenching loss against Hawaii, Wyoming, or Montana State from playing in a bowl game, man. Like, they were so close to getting that 6th win. One of the underrated stories of the year, if you guys have a chance to go back and look, that Washington State win, I think it was like the second to last week of the season, at home was like just awesome. And they rushed the field. And I think Mendenhall said in the press conference, he's like, when's the last time they rushed the field here at New Mexico? 5 wins for a lot of fan bases would be disappointing, but that team was a lot of fun, and I think they were super excited about it. Unfortunately, they got to find a way to replace the production on offense and their quarterback this year, and Devin Dampier.
Yeah. All right, JP, surprising team in the G5.
To the MAC. Let's go Buffalo Bulls here, man. A team nobody really expected to make any noise in the MAC, and then you go 6-2 in conference, and 8-4 overall. I mean, tip your cap to that team. That's not one that I really had circled in the MAC to make any noise at all, and to do what they did throughout the season. And I believe they crushed Liberty in the bowl game. They take down Toledo. They take down NIU, who is high in a lot of places for some teams, and it's just not a program that wins that kind of games. Like, we haven't seen this since the Van Treese years. I think that was COVID when they were like really, really good and end up losing a MAC title. But man, it's just
it's a hard place to win too.
Yeah, it's really hard, and it's really cool to see a program like that. And then I'll lead into my honorable mention since we've all gone. I'll stay in the same conference. What? We've all gone.
All right. You can go.
Yeah,
Stay in the same conference. You're not going to take mine. Go ahead.
Ohio.
Yeah, 100%. That should be unanimous. Everybody's picks. I mean,
especially
after
when your
losing
quarterback leaves for a playoff team. Yes.
Yeah, and Navarro was great for them.
Really good.
Tim Albin was awesome to do what he did with a roster that just left after the spring and like scrapping things together to go win the MAC 7-1 in conference and do what they did was really cool. And to see him get promoted to a job elsewhere is really cool to see. I think he'll do great things at Charlotte. Correct, is where he got hired.
You said promotion, and I'm like, it probably is resource wise, location.
I think he really loved being in Athens, Ohio, and so it does suck for the MAC to lose a good coach like that. But you got to circle Ohio and be like, that's a really cool story.
I'll give a quick honorable mention because we bashed him in the preseason, and we actually had people come for us in the comments. But Sam Houston, just a giant surprise, right? Like the way they were going to integrate in. But go ahead. What?
No, you're good. Yours? No. I'm glad we got to say mine, but stay on your Sam Houston.
Yeah, Sam Houston. I mean, you win the games they did. The way their defense competed and literally kept that team. Yeah. With the record they had, like they couldn't score sometimes, but their defense was so good throughout the entire season. They won a couple of shocking games, but we really had this as a 2 to 4 win team in our preseason takes just because of the way they performed. And we had a Sam Houston State guy come for us in the comments saying we redshirted everybody.
He was right. Don't say that we don't hold ourselves accountable. Like Perks literally circled this and goes, we need to make sure we cover Sam Houston here. Like, chill out in the comments.
We hold ourselves. We were wrong.
We like Bearcats with a K just as much as anybody else. All right, so chill out.
Absolutely, but we hands up. We were wrong. But great surprising year for Sam Houston, and they should build off of it. What do you think, Jake? Who did I not take that I thought you thought I was going to?
No, we just needed to say it as a podcast because I think we're all pro this team. Again, you can have surprising good seasons without making a bowl game. Shout out to the Warhawks, ULM Warhawks, man.
Great pick.
I really, the debate about bowl games mattering and stuff. Tell those kids it would have mattered had they been able to participate in a bowl game. It would have been really cool. Hardy had a phenomenal freshman season. That's why he's off to Missouri. But started off, unfortunately, weren't they 5-1 and then lost 6 straight?
They were. I remember sending
part.
that tweet. Tell your kids about 5-1 ULM, and then it just went south quick.
But I remember them beating James Madison when at home, and that was the one that stood out to me. And it was like, man, like ULM, just to see that place.
They built enough hype to have superstitions, man. They like got into those black uniforms and they kept winning, and they just kept wearing the sons of bitches. Like they just got the national attention and were grabbing it, which I love because we've all visited there. If you're first time listener to the show, we have visited ULM. We have been to the stadium. Not a nice town, but very cool place. Like somebody definitely, if you're driving through Monroe, Louisiana.
Still, I need no rivals. ULM Monroe hat.
Please.
Yeah. Yep. Shout out No Rivals. Great plug, JP. ShopNoRivals.com. Use the code PTFS at checkout for free shipping on all your premium collegiate headwear. I got the Tops Espresso hat on right now. Shout out Western Kentucky. It's a beauty. Goes with everything. And they have some nice teams on the way. If you're a camo guy, we haven't talked about the camo collection, but if you like real camo, cream or black, check out their new line they just dropped today. And like I said, use the code PTFS at checkout. We'll cover shipping for you. You get your premium hat, probably pick up a few more ladies than you would without it on, and you're welcome for that. So shout out No Rivals, shopnorivals.com today. With that, that's everything we wanted to cover.